Hello everybody, in this little video I'm going to be welding up some 2.5-inch pipe work. I'm going to be doing it in one run, so it will be capped and routed just in one run. And why am I doing it? Well, it's quicker and you don't really need to do a root run and then a cap on top of it. It's not very thick pipe, it's only about 5 or 6 millimeters. I know there's going to be a few people saying, yeah, you should be doing that in 2 runs, you should always root it first, blah blah blah. But with my fit up, it's literally buttered tight together with a very sharp bevel. So you don't really need to do it in 2 runs. Like I say, it just goes straight through. It's not very difficult. I set my amps starting around 135 amps. Sometimes I might just drop it down to 130 if it feels like it might be getting a bit hot and not building up on the cap as well. And also if it's a little bit too hot, you get a bit too much penetration on the inside and then not much on the outside, and it looks a bit rubbish. So you might see me turn it down at some point through the video, but about 135 is where you need to be. I set up my torch with a large gas lens. I use a number 8 shroud and a 2.5 fluorinated tungsten. My gas run comes out at 35 CFHs. It might not be that, I've got it turned right up, I don't really care. It does the job and I'm not paying for the gas, so it doesn't really matter. So when I start welding a joint like this, I always start on attack. Goes without saying, I think everybody starts on attack. I don't bother grinding them out. What I do, I start on the tack and I hover on the tack for about 3 to 5 seconds just to make sure I've got the heat. Otherwise you are not going to push through. To give yourself a nice root on the inside, it will be a little bit flat and it won't be very raised at all. And once I can feel the filler wire going through, I then start to move. I'm just trying to keep a consistent dab and push action going at the same time, but being careful that I'm not pushing too hard. It needs to stay consistent, otherwise you will end up with an excessive root, and that's not really something you want. Doing this type of work, it doesn't really matter at all because it's not being x-rayed and its sole purpose is literally just to move water through a building. As long as it doesn't leak, you are pretty much good. So there's not much skill in this, but if you can't do it, it's very difficult. As it was for me when I first started out, I was absolutely rubbish. And usually I like to count to 2 every time I dab. So I dab, 1, 2, dab, 1, 2, dab, 1, 2, dab. In that exact rhythm is what I use. And I find using that rhythm, it's very easy to keep everything pretty much the same as long as you keep the pressure of your dabs the same throughout. Otherwise, like I said, you will get excessive root and you don't want that. And if you are pushing too hard, then you're not going to build up the outside of the weld either, the face of the weld, and it will just look like it's all sucked in and horrible. Obviously it goes without saying that this technique can be quite challenging, I'd like to say, if you're not used to dabbing your weld like this or doing any freehand work, especially on pipe, because a lot of people, obviously you like to weave it, walk the cut, do whatever else, any other technique you might know of, and yeah, without this you ain't got to do any back feeding or anything like that. You are simply just working to achieve this weld in one run, and it is very easy to blow a hole in your weld basically. And if you do that, it's annoying. You've probably got to start it again, to be fair, because sometimes when it does go, it goes a big hole. It's not just a little hole. You can fill it up if you really want to, but it's probably better just to cut it off and start again. I've done that quite a few times when I've been welding too hot and it just falls through and you end up with a 10-15 mil hole. So as you know from me saying that, it can be quite devastating, but what can you do? Sometimes you make these mistakes and you just got to let them happen sometimes, otherwise you don't learn how to progress or what you might have done wrong in the future. I would like to apologise that I haven't got any really good arc shots to show you a bit more detail, because if I could show you it would be easier for you to understand. But I think if you've got a little bit of pipe laying around spare, then definitely give this one a go. You might get a couple of funny looks from people. I know I certainly have when I've been on site doing this same thing. Oh, where's the gap, where's this, where's that? Well, don't need it. Half the time the people saying that aren't even welders anyway, and if you're a welder you know full well that you're going to get it done. I'd like to add that Bowler has kindly sponsored me for this video with the welding mask and TIG rods. They are EMK6s, they are a ER70S6 rod, but they are phenomenal. They are very clean, they don't bend that easily, and they are perfect for this type of weld because they allow you to heat up the puddle enough without burning the rod before you put it into the weld, so it maintains its integrity. But you've just got to make sure that when you're trying this weld that you need to keep the tightest arc possible and try not to flare around the pipe too much as you're coming around, otherwise you run the risk of melting your rod before you get a chance to push it through. That would be a great tip of the day for anybody who is wanting to try this weld. It's not that difficult once you get the hang of it. I would like to add as well, here I go again, adding things. Starting to run out of things to talk about. I'm not really the best talker. I don't like being on a microphone in front of a camera or speaking to an audience. So I don't really know why I decided to start making YouTube videos, because I've got to do all of them in one. But if you're welding two fittings together, I'm not welding it here, but I did weld it. I will be welding one shortly. You might notice that I take a bit longer to go around it, and that's because the fittings are slightly thicker than the pipe, and I've had to slow down a little bit just to make sure that I'm getting all the way through. And I do pause for maybe an extra 1 to 2 seconds just on that tack when I start, just to make sure that it's going through. And there's a little telltale sign that you're not going through, and that is when you are pushing the filler metal in, you will see that it starts to bulge up around the outside of the bevel. And this is a very good indicator that shows that you're not penetrating the pipe, because when you penetrate the pipe it sits inside the bevel and just slowly builds out gradually as you're adding the filler, and it don't bulge out straight away, if that makes sense. Like I said, I wish I could show you, but I wasn't the best at getting any good shots here. If anybody can or does know how to take a good shot of an arc, then let me know, it would be great, because then I could show you a lot easier and it'd be better for you to learn from. I know in this video I have tacked up the spool all as one. Sometimes I don't tack the whole spool up, and that's only if it's quite a big part, which makes it a bit awkward moving. If it's a bit of 8-inch onwards, I'll probably tack an elbow on, weld the elbow, tack the next piece on, and so forth, just so it makes it easier. But with little things like this, I like to just tack the whole lot up and weld it away. It's a good way to learn how to weld awkwardly. As you can see, I've got to bend under things and things like that. And also, I think one of the biggest lies in welding is getting yourself comfy, because if you're always comfy, when you come to doing something challenging, like you need to bend over something, or you're on site and there's not really much else you can do apart from be uncomfortable, you are really going to struggle. Which is why, another reason why I do tack up my bits like this. So I have to lean down under things, and I have to bend over my vise and things like that. It just makes you better when it comes to an awkward position. So when you get on site, nothing's really going to bother you, other than probably you might have trouble seeing, but you just get out the trusted mirror and away you go. That's pretty much all I can talk about today. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. I won't be talking in the rest of it because I have literally ran out of things to say and talk about. If you enjoy the rest of the video, please give me a like and a subscribe, and thank you for watching.